friends, welcome to the Season 19 Treaty United Building a Nation recap. Of course, if you do enjoy these, drop a like on the video. That would be fantastic. Just lets me know that you want me to keep doing them. So, yeah, and of course, we're live over on stream right now with, we've got a £90 million transfer budget. £90 million. Now, as always, there's no way we're going to be able to spend it all, of course, because we've got to try and stay rich. But there is mucho things to catch you up on for this season as well. But we're going to be trying to do that right now over on stream. And of course, if you want to see the full VODs, they're over on the second channel. Link in the description for you can catch them in their entirety, uploaded the day after each stream. So without any further ado, jump into youth intake action. And I know this year, let's just go. Not entirely disappointing. He's still not great in the grand scheme of things, and I don't think he'll ever set foot on the pitch for us, particularly not as he got a jet ski injury. Makes it a little bit worse, doesn't it? So Robert Whelan was the best option from our youth intake this year. I definitely think he's better than a lot of the players we've had in recent seasons, as is very evidenced by that, but still, I think the last 5 seasons have all been half-star poor youth intakes, but I don't really know what we can do about that. We're not getting notifications anymore about youth players being poached by other clubs either. We're just getting crap youth intakes, and I think we're just going to have to persist with this until one of these days, over the course of, we've had 20 seasons without a good youth intake. Best youth intake was like season 3, but that's just how it goes. Hopefully at some point between now and like season 40, I don't know, we'll get a good one, but there we go. We move for now. So let's talk about some signings, because there's been an absolute buttload of them, and quite a few outs as well, which we're going to focus on first, because we need some context for this. We've made a lot of money. The first out was Silvio Preoteza, the pre-test. He's gone back to Farrell Costanza for £4.2 million. There was a little clause in there as well. Basically, we didn't feel like he was ever going to be able to fit into our team, and we just wanted to sell him, and it just so happened that the club that we bought him off of originally, although we did pay, we ended up losing a bit of money on the deal. It was the comes deep to get ball trait. On him specifically, he just seemed to never be able to get in behind. I think it's because he lacks a bit of speed to go with it. He was just not very good in the end. Despite seeming like he had good attributes, just wasn't quite to be for him. But we got a little bit of our money back, I suppose. Vojislav Novakovic has signed for Dundalk permanently on a free transfer, essentially. They do owe us some money, but I'm not going to cash it in, basically. So it wasn't like an actual free transfer. I just gave him to them for free because they put a bid in, and I said, nah, have him for free, lads. And they did. And I don't know how he's actually got on for them so far. He's not played a great deal of matches from the beginning of any. Only got the one goal, which ironically was in the Champions League, although I think that might have been for us. When did he do that? But needless to say, that's the thing that's happened. Silvio Halalai has also joined Lask for £700,000. He couldn't get any more loans because no one wanted it, or rather he wouldn't go out on any more loans, and we just felt it was the right time for him to move on for 700 grand. He does get 2 Austria caps, interestingly. Next, a big one. Sinisa Milosevic, one of our stalwart central defenders he's been here 10 years now. He was pretty much 1 season away from a testimonial, I think. He's gone to Porto. The main reason for this was that he was a backup centre-back for us that was constantly complaining about playing time, and I felt that we had other players coming through after a while that I felt like I wanted to play a bit more, given that he was 29 now. I didn't feel like he was going to get any better. And when Porto said, hey, how about £25 million for him? I said yes. And I also got a 50% of the next sale fee clause in there, which I've already cashed in for a further 12 million, taking the total fee to 37 million, which has been really, really useful in keeping us financially stable over this period. So I was more than happy to do the deal and allow people like Danko and a few others to actually get some more game time. Jose Maria, another player that I think I showed you last year. I'm fairly certain I did. It might have even been this year. He's gone to PSG for £9.5 million. The reason for this, again, with the 50% of next sale fee clause, I bought him off of Real Madrid for 6 because I wanted to see if I could get him into the loan farm, but I couldn't seem to get it to happen. And then he started kicking up a fuss. So I thought, you know what? Screw it. We'll send him back out again on a permanent one, make a little bit of money, and try to get a bit more money on the back end if he performs really, really well at PSG. So I'm hoping that either he does really well and they sell him and we get loads of money, or we can cash in that clause and maybe take the fees total up to like 15 million, which is just nice cash on the side. And the last of the big outs is Jan Vosterek. It's finally happened after several years of trying to get someone to take Jan, either on a loan, or we did have a brief loan to Benfica for a bit, which kind of didn't work out that well for him, or something. I was beginning to lose hope. But then Juventus came to our rescue. £23 million is the bid in the end that he's gone for, and again has a 50% of the next sale fee clause. He's really, really good. Like, attribute wise, he's fantastic, but for whatever reason, he just did not seem to suit our style of play and was never able to be consistent enough to make anything happen for us. So I figured we'll make a huge profit on him. We'll get that clause. At the moment, they want to buy it off us for 11 million roughly. I think that we could get more later down the line if he actually starts to perform. He's got 10 in 15 for Juve so far. I suspect that he's not going anywhere anytime soon, and if he is, it's going to be to a bigger side rather than a smaller one. So actually, I'm prepared to keep hold of this contract for a little bit and just see what comes of it. But that's all the outs. You'll notice that's a lot of money that we've generated there. So needless to say, we haven't spent as much as that, but we have still spent a decent whack of change this year, certainly into the tens and tens of million. First new player that signed for us was Adam Koharski for £1.7 million from Legia Warszawa. He was a bit older, but he had Polish caps, and I just really like what I saw about his attributes. Ignoring the star ratings for a second, I think there's a really solid player in here. Like a really solid player. And I've had bids for him in January from some quite big sites, which makes me think that there's definitely a quality player in this guy. And I think for the money that we paid for him, it was a reasonable deal. He hasn't played that much, just the 6 starts for us, but 3 goals and 2 assists, played in the league for us a little bit. I think there's a definite quality player under this guy. And just getting these guys that immediately come in and are worth that kind of money is a great money spinner for us, that allows us to keep ourselves financially stable and also occasionally make some big moolah. Then there was Choi Tae-hoon, who joined us for £5.6 million from Porto, who I've been really, really impressed with this year. You can see his value's already jumped through the roof. Now, I have had a bid on him from Lille, of all teams, and he's pissed at me. Obviously, he isn't at the moment because obviously this was an older version of the save, so I could see all the stats. He's pissed at me because I don't want to let him leave to Lille, which is really, really weird considering he's a starting player. I know he's got an impact sub status here, but he's been fantastic for us this season. What was that? 17 goals and 9 assists this year in 20 starts. He's been fantastic. Goals in the Champions League, goals in the All-Ireland Champions Cup, 8 goals in 10 starts in the league as well. Really, really good player. Only 22 years old. I think he's fantastic, and he was well worth the extra wages we had to pay to get the deal done. I'm a huge fan of this man. And the final of the big ones that came in before Christmas was this lad, and I think he's an absolute world beater. This is Dorian Niakshu, probably the future of left back in world football, honestly. He's amazing. £3 million from Farrell Costanza, because of course it is. Now, he has an enormous wage at the moment. That wasn't his original wage. So what we did basically was we brought him in on a quite cheap contract with a £15 million release clause, then with the plan after 6 months to give him a brand new contract, to give him the contract we actually wanted, but that removes the release clause, because otherwise they wouldn't have let us do the thing in the first place. So that's why he's now got on such huge money. But he's already got 6 caps for Romania. He's got outrageous physicals. His technicals and mentals are just getting better and better and better, honestly. He's already made 40 odd appearances, or nearly 40 appearances for us this season. He's absolutely fantastic, really. And I think for £3 million, I think he's potentially could be one of the best left backs in the world within about 3 or 4 seasons. So really excited. Move over, Jibril Deer. There's a new man in town. Next up, a couple of cheap bids. Johan Erlenvold, £72,000. He's on loan at St. Pat's. A guy that went into the loan farm you can hardly say no to. And also from Mulder was Evan Ugland. He was a bit more expensive, actually, weighing in at nearly £3 million. But if nothing else, just because of his value, and he is wanted by some teams, which is nice. Who's he wanted by? PSG. Really? You'd love to see it. I mean, if they're going to give me like 8 million quid with a 50% next sale fee clause, I'd bite their hand off. Next up was one of the transfers I'm most pleased with. I know he's 31, but this is Albin Sandberg. He's a Swedish international, still is, was playing for Malmö and had been for years, 14 years he did at Malmö, £2.3 million. And it's not even just that, because he has fantastic attributes. He's a model citizen personality. He did cost us a bit in wages, but not too much. He's just been unbelievable this season. 32 appearances, 26 goals, and 24 assists from left wing. That's 50 goal contributions in 32 starts. He's never been a sub, only ever started matches. 14 in the league and 8 assists. 7 goals and 9 assists in the Champions League this season for Albin Sandberg. And he's also missed 4 penalties as well. So he could have actually had 30 goals this year from left wing, which is a supporting role in this tactic. He's been utterly magnificent and easily one of the best signings we've made for years. And I think we're going to get basically his prime years out of him, which is fantastic. He's got decent natural fitness, so we should be able to see him out through his full contract, I think, before we start to see much of a drop-off, which is awesome. Then there's Milan Ketcher. Now, with him, it was a loan with an option to buy because it was the only way we could actually get him in. It was 3.7 million at the time. I now, in the full save, have actually extended his loan for a further season because they let me drop the fee to £2.7 million at the end. So if we want him after that, then we could still get him even cheaper. Not sure if I'd actually take that clause up at this point, but it's nice to have it as well. Then Nelly Furtado. His name is actually Nelson Furtado, but when you've got a player that's called that, like, how could you not call him Nelly Furtado? £1.5 million from Passos de Ferreira. He's out on loan at Shamrock Rovers. He's got relatively strong attributes. I like him. He's more for the loan farm again, but when you can pick up guys that cheap that come in and have good value for the loan farm, love to see it. Good on both feet as well. Next up is probably the biggest outlay of the season, honestly, on those areas. This is Stanislav Garnis. £5.5 million from Legia Warsaw. Now, this guy's been on our radar for years, but I never felt that he was quite right. And I think that was partly just because he didn't seem to have the potential ceiling, but apparently he just kind of did. And then he just kept developing, but he never left Poland. He got 150 goals for Legia in 222 appearances in the league. And we picked him up for £5.5 million. This year, 23 starts, 32 goals for him. And that was with Paolo Vinicius still playing a decent amount. He got 22 in the league, and that was mostly over the first half of the season while Vinicius was having a bit of a weird spell. Just to have a second striker that could do this kind of stuff. £5.5 million. He's on decent money, but there you go. He's got huge value, and I still think that he is an absolutely wonderful footballer who, with that natural fitness, could easily go into his mid-30s and still be fantastic. So, what a bargain. Then, Randy Hobbs. a young American coming in from FC Zurich for £400,000. He's already worth moon money because of that as well. So I think there's a real player under here. We just need to get the best out of him. But he's in the loan farm, hopefully to get a loan from him next season. Great physicals, some nice technicals in there too. And I think for 400 grand, steal, absolute steal. Then Sanel Mehmet, £1.1 million from Midtjylland. You can again see that we're just bringing these players in and they're immediately just gaining value, getting game time for a lot of our youth sides. They're all in the loan farm. They just haven't actually found their loan yet. I'm hoping that this is the window that some of these guys get their next big moves. There wasn't any, I think we were actually outside the Irish window for loans or like domestic transfers at that point when they joined us, so it meant that we were a bit of a weird situation. They tend not to move to loans straight away. Some of them do, but most of them take like one window to get that sorted, so hopefully we'll get one for him soon too. Then there's Pavel Hanuš, who is a Czech striker, £1.2 million from Slovan Liberec. Immediately worth a load of money as well. We're just finding gem after gem at this point, and hopefully some of these guys will turn out to be fantastic, or at the very least move into the loan farm system for somewhere else. And it's just, you just can't turn down. With the amount of money we've got sloshing around, picking up a guy for $1 million here and $1 million there and just taking a punt, even if only 1 in 5 of them works out, or even 1 in 10, it's still worth it for us, and that's the beauty of it. Then there's Borna Unterlechner, who's currently still out on loan at Hajduk Split. We have bought him for £3.5 million. The reason for that was more just because he has fantastic attributes. My scouts don't rate him very much, but he has really good attributes. Just a solid player. Really nice trek potentially as well, either for us or again for the loan farm, and once again gains the value. So just fantastic player. There's Carlos Ararat, who's a really solid striker. £125,000, easy as pie really. He does have better potential than this as well, because when he joins us, it goes up quite a bit. So really happy with that. Then there's Macaulay Corbett, £2.4 million from Bristol Rovers. Sent him straight out to Sligo Rovers because, of course, we can. And he's just a solid player. Will be a homegrown player for Ireland as well. The more of these, the better, really. Just more of this talent. Love to see it. And the last of the players that actually joined us during this period was Luis Navio. The reason I picked him up was he was £1 million from Porto at the same sort of time as they were trying to buy Milosevic offers for £25 million. They'd listed this guy for £1 million. So I just took a punt on him. He's worth £10 million now. He's actually been really good this season. 17 stars, and he's managed to net 7 goals. He scored in the Champions League, he scored in the league, he scored in the cups. He's been really good. Like, I've been extremely impressed with his performances in this team, whereas I thought he would come in as a backup, if nothing else. And he's actually done really well as a backup, admittedly, but I feel like I could rely on him if I need to. So happy with that. Now, there's actually one more player. He hasn't joined us yet. There's a few more that haven't joined us yet, but there's one guy I want to really highlight to you because he's outrageous. And that is this guy, Mbaye Sal. Ignore this. When he joins us, we get another scout report soon that says 5-star. So it's all good. But the point is, he's ridiculous. There are some other players that will join us as well, but you'll see those in the next year. But I had to show you this guy. I was looking at national teams, just doing a little bit of scouting, and I saw that he was playing for Senegal at 18 years old. And then I gave him one little look and thought, yep, we have to try and sign this guy. £15,000 from Diambars. 15 grand for a guy who's this good and well-rounded at 18 years old. We're going to try to retrain him to play him as a right wing-back on the right in actually that spot. Because when you look at what he's actually like there, other than his crossing and dribbling, which can still improve in time, he's still very young, he's just fantastic. I love the shit out of this guy. I think he's going to be amazingly good for us. And for the price, it's a bargain. Any player of this kind of quality for 15 grand is an absolute bargain. I'm hoping he can be the next Gibril Dia, but he's even better from a base rate, isn't he? He just really is extraordinary. Needs to work on his defensive positioning a little bit too, but I just love everything about him. He's brilliant. He's very aggressive. He's got great personality. Everything is great. So with that, this is the loan farm. It's 38 players we've got out on loan this season. You can see that a lot of strong performances in there. Sligo have got a guy who's doing really well. Obviously, we have a loan in there as well. But lots of players on loan at Dundalk. Fidel Fay is now on loan at Bose as well, which is good. Rengifo had to go out to Freiburg, sadly. But it's just one of those things. It's mostly still Dundalk. But you see that there are still other sides actually are taking our players still, which is really nice indeed. Not all of them are performing fantastically, but they're doing okay, and as long as we can keep them out there, I think it's great. We just have to slowly start building it up. The dev list has still got, as you can see, loads of guys that are ready for loans, but they're on the dev list. I keep offering them out. The clubs just aren't ready for them yet. But it will come a time when it will definitely be the case. And they'll be able to hopefully make a name for themselves in Ireland as well. Alonso with 27 goals for Dundalk this year. Shalvik with 16 for Shelbourne in the second tier, which is pretty impressive as well. I think it was the second tier. I can't actually remember who was promoted this year. No, I think they were relegated actually, but he still got 16 goals. Fidel Fay with 13 goals there. Stephenson as well. These guys are getting national team caps as well. Stephenson and Viggers have been getting in the Danish national team while playing for Dundalk. So that's to and below Safisian as well. Vukotic, I think Demiri as well. That's how good those guys have been playing for them. Right, the league. Don't really need to kill your time much with this. We won the league. Imagine. Once again, though, unbeaten. Completely unbeaten this season. Won all the cups, as you normally do. We kind of have to, honestly. So, as you can see, Drogheda, once again, do stay up. So, again, the 9th place side stays up, I think, for probably the 5th season in a row. But there is a different promoted side, this team, for the first time in about 7 years. We do win the league by 20 points over Dundalk. They still had a very solid season. Not quite the start that they had the previous season, but they still got very close to it, if not very might have even exceeded the number of points in the end. But yeah, 98 points for us. 2 straight seasons now without a defeat in the league. So that's over 70 matches since we last lost the league game. Took us a while to get that first unbeaten year now, but we look very confident in doing it. We're still miles away from getting an invincible season. We actually got more points last year than this year, but it is what it is. Dundalk comes second. Get your Champions League in there nicely. Bows this time do comfortably get third spot by 15 points over Cork City and Skamrock Rovers. Once again, Cork and Skamrock Rovers are now starting to solidify themselves as the 4th and 5th sides. And that's good. We want them to both be in Europe every single season because, one, they're going to have better players, as you can see from the gaps that we're seeing. And also, they build up personal coefficient, which then allows them to perform better in Europe. We very much need that because they get better draws and stuff like that. So yeah, Shelbourne relegated again. However, something slightly different has happened this time around because Waterford were the promoted side and not Bray Wanderers. You'll see that it's literally been Shelbourne, Bray, Shelbourne, Bray, Shelbourne, Bray, Shelbourne, Waterford. They finally managed to turn it around into their favour, and someone else has got promoted for the first time in years. But you can really see how lopsided the second tier is in Ireland because of how concentrated the wealth is in this nation at the moment. But what can we really do about that? Okay, now Europe. This is where the real stuff happens. As you know, we got drawn against Barcelona in the knockouts. A bit of an unfortunate one for us there. We lost 4-3 at the Camp Nou in the first game of this tie. But the thing is, you look at the scoreline, we were 3-0 down in this match at one point. So to only lose 4-3, bloody impressive from the guys. They did brilliantly. Garnies, Rengifo and Limburg changed things in the second half for us. They really, really did. Vinicius had a dreadful first half of this match and had to be, I think I actually did substitute him at half time, but it really made a huge difference. And we managed to pull it back to 4-3 in the end, which I'd say is probably about right, honestly. Had some huge chances that we missed as well. Mad game. But in the second leg, we were able to pull out an absolute miracle once more. A 4-2 victory this time against Barcelona with Garnies, Theisfries, Ali Limburg, and of course, Palanek Mate grabbing the goals. We were 4-0 up. Sorry, not 4-0 up. We'd scored 4 goals in the first half of this match, and it was 4-1 at half time. They did get one back in the second half through Balak Swisher, and they probably should have won this match, honestly. So we ended up winning 7-6 on aggregate to get through to the quarterfinals, where we met PSG and unfortunately got summarily humped 4-2 in the end. It's a shame because we were actually really good in this game, much better than we were against Barcelona, ironically. But with a few injuries, people like Glucevic had to start, Karp had to play. It just wasn't perfect for us, and in the end, we ended up going down 4-2 in a game that we really should have won. We were the better side in this match, and I think had we won 4-2, that may have been harsh, but it's just one of those things. We had a mountain to climb. A mountain which we did actually manage to climb. Sort of, in a way. We managed to win on the night. The Donut scored a goal in the 77th minute, an absolute worldie of a performance from Mihov. We had some great chances towards the end of this match, but couldn't take them, and in the end did fall out of the Champions League at the quarter-final stage by 4-3. Probably just about right over the court, if you balance out both legs, because we should have won the first game narrowly, but the second game we didn't deserve to win. But we did get the coefficient points for winning the match, which was super duper important, because Dundalk did go out at the first time of asking in the Conference League because they drew Monaco of all teams, and as a result of that, they managed to get a draw in France against Monaco, but then lost the home leg in extra time, which is a real shame because they were given a stonewall penalty they were given a dodgy penalty against them in the Monaco game and missed some absolute sitters in the first leg and should have won about 3-0 in France. Wasn't to be, sadly, though, so they did go out there, and that was our last hope in Europe. But Europe this season is where things get a bit better. We got Slavia Prague in our playoff draw, 3-1 victory away from home, followed up with a 6-2 victory in the end, which, what was that, 9-3 on aggregate in the end, to get through to the group stages, which we're always going to do. One of these days we'll finally get ourselves into a position to not have to worry about playoff rounds, but, needs must. And that was our group. We ended up getting a group, of course, of Bayern, Lille, and Roma, which we were able to win. It finally happened. Roma were dreadful. First match, obviously, got the victory over Roma there. A weird game. We dominated them, had 40 shots, and still only won 3-2. They had like 2. It was insane. Then we won away from home in Lille as well, which was really nice to get that result. But then the big result, it was in the next match day where we beat Bayern Munich by 3-0. Danko, Vinicius, and Sandberg. That one was the most important win of them all. Although, actually, I'd argue the return fixture. Albin Sandberg's goal in the first half, which gave us the lead right before half-time, before they equalised, was the most important goal. Because only losing we lost 4-1, but winning 3-0 meant that there is still an away goal rule in Europe, but it only applies in head-to-heads for group stages. So, because it was 4-4, and both games were won, we'd scored an away goal within the head-to-head, and that is what seeded us as the group winner in the end, incredibly. Not the goal difference, although it would have in the end if it had gone to goal difference, but at one point it didn't look very likely because their goal difference was better than ours. We then managed to go out there in the end and beat Roma 4-0 away from home and then hammer Lille 6-0 on the final day of the Champions League. And obviously with Bayern only winning 2-0, we managed to completely overturn any deficits there as well. Vinicius with the Hattie, Choite Hoon getting 1-2, 2 more for Ali Limburg, and we win our Champions League group for the second consecutive season and get 15 points. That is really, really good. Considering this was a fairly tough group, honestly. When we saw it, there were some mad groups. This was not an easy one one by any means. So to get 5 wins and lots of coefficient points, that right there is worth 2 points by itself. Just the results we got in the group stage. So really, really pleased for that. Our reward for winning the group is Inter Milan, which there are better sides. We could have definitely got a more plum draw than that. Rangers were in there still. I feel like we could have beaten them. But Inter is certainly not... They're one of those mid ones where I feel like it can go either way, but I think on our day, we should be strong enough to beat them and get to another quarter-final. And I'd like to think that we're capable of doing that, because we do need all the coefficient points that we can get. Now, other Irish sides in Europe. This is where things take a bit of a journey. Firstly, Dundalk were knocked out, unfortunately, I think on penalties in the end by Red... No, they weren't, sorry. There was a 3-3 draw there, and they lost the first leg, unfortunately. So they went out at the first time of asking, which is a bit of a shame, honestly. I felt they could have done more than that, but it did help us out in a way, because it allowed them to fall down and potentially have more of an influence further down the leagues, which is exactly what they did. Beating Rapid Vienna 3-1 on aggregate. Shamrock Rovers as well also beat Victoria Pilsen 3-1 on aggregate, which I would not have suspected, honestly. I thought they were going to struggle massively. But by doing that, they then guaranteed themselves at least Conference League group stages, which was perfect. So at this point, we then knew that we were going to have at least 3 sides in the groups, which is fantastic news. What we didn't anticipate, though, was that in the following round of fixtures, they would both succeed. Dundalk might have lost the second leg 3-1 to Bodo, which was very, very weird. But they managed to win the first leg 3-0. And as a result, went through to the Europa League group stages. But in addition to that, Shamrock Rovers beat Pushkas 3-0 on aggregate, won both legs, to get through to the Europa League group stages, which was mental, honestly. Was not expecting that. I would have rather had them, honestly, in the group stages of the Conference League, but there you go. As for the Conference League, Cork City got a very plum draw against the Lechnica and were able to go to victory in the end. I think they won both legs, and it was 4-2 in the end. And then we got even more fortunate when they drew against Valo Reykjavik in the next round. They did have to rely on penalties to go through, but there were some much worse draws that they could have had, so I was very, very pleased with the draws we were getting. In addition, Bohemian got Apollon Limassol in their first round, managed to win both legs 1-0. We were finally getting some plum draws, which we managed to sort of elude us this entire time to allow our teams to get that little bit further. Unfortunately, this is where it went a little bit wrong in the end. Bows in the end went out 3-0 to Maccabi Tel Aviv, which is stupidly disappointing. They won the first leg 1-0 and we thought, right, they can do this. And then they got twatted 3-0. Real shame. I thought that's when we thought there's going to be 4 sides in the group stages. It wasn't going to quite happen. And the same kind of thing applied to Cork City. They got a 1-1 draw in Montpellier, and we thought, right, they can do this. But then unfortunately they lost the home leg 3-1 after taking the lead as well. They gave them a bloody good go at it, but it wasn't quite enough. So it did leave us 3 sides in the group, but it was us, of course, in the Champions League, and then 2 sides in the Europa League groups, which is a bit sus. Not sus, but we knew that Shamrock would really struggle, and we didn't know how Dundalk would fare. Well, we soon got our answer. We'll start with Dundalk. They qualified. They got out of their group. They won 3 matches. They actually started off quite poorly. I think they lost their first game. Or no, yeah, they did. They lost their first game, literally, against Hertha Berlin, and we thought, oh dear, they've had it here. But they got a win against Lazio. They got a draw away at Lazio. They beat FC Twente home and away. Smashed it. Ended up getting in. They'd actually qualified before the last game as well, so it wasn't even as close as you'd think it was. So huge amount of points for Dundalk there. Getting through to the next round of the Europa League was fantastic. But the best thing, honestly, for me was Shamrock had a struggling start. They did manage to get a point against Hibs, which turned out to be massive in the end, but they lost to Red Star and we thought, nah, they've had it. They lost to Spurs, lost to Hibs. Going into that final day, we thought there's no hope, but they did. On the final day I think it was the final day anyway. On the final day, they beat Red Star 1-0, and that was enough to see them leapfrog them and qualify for the Europa Conference League knockouts after Christmas. So for the first time in this save, we have 3 Irish sides in the knockouts, 1 in every single competition. I did not expect Shamrock Rovers to be the first time to do that with 3 sides, honestly. That's mad to me. And their draws? Well, Dundalk faced Galatasaray. I don't think that's out the realms of possibility for them. I think they've beaten better sides in the past, and they'll be fully fresh and raring to go. I think Dundalk could get through that, and then after that, the sky's the limit. I'm amazed by them. And as for the Europa Conference League, you're never going to believe this. Shamrock Rovers got drawn against Pushkas Academy, the team that they'd already knocked out of Europe on aggregate once already this season. They beat them home and away in the playoff rounds to get in to the Europa League. So the fact that they're now meeting them again means I've got to think everything about the fact that they've surely got every chance of going to the next round of the Europa Conference League as well, which would mean more coefficient points for us. This is where it gets extra spicy. The group stages are complete, and we're already on 8.9 points this season, which is bloody phenomenal. And we've still got 3 Irish sides in there. We've got a minimum of 6 more matches to potentially scrounge up some extra points. The sky's the limit on how far we could potentially go, as with the other 2. I think they're both playing. I think all 3 of us are playing in ties that we could potentially win. And if we were to, we could maybe even have another 12 matches to go and have more chances to get points. Potentially for our best season ever, honestly. Might take a little while to catch the 11-point season there, but when we're losing a 5.5, this is exactly what you need. And more important than that it would allow us to leapfrog Switzerland, the Netherlands, and the Czech Republic in a single season by a considerable margin as well of over 2 points now. We'd actually be starting to close in on Turkey in 8th spot, and that's key because if we were to start to go and get 9th spot this season from where we are, that would allow us guaranteed group stage for us. It would also allow Dundalk to move up around and guarantee them a group stage of something every single season, no matter what. The others would remain absolutely untouched at that point, but that's still fine. It's still a massive step in the right direction. 6th is the next real task after that. Also, yeah, Scotland did manage to get 4th place. Unironically, they locked it in they managed to get ahead of Germany, and at one point this season they were actually ahead of Italy and were looking like they might even take 3rd. I think that's changed now. Yeah, Italy have managed to pull themselves back in front, because unfortunately for Scotland, they're actually having a really bad season. Still not enough to lose the spot to Germany again, because they're losing a pretty good year, but it does look like Scotland might well be in for a bit of trouble, but they're still going to have a great time of it, needless to say. As for our squad, you can see Vinicius, top scorer, well, joint top scorer with Garnice. They pretty much scored, well, they scored 34 goals off of nearly the exact same amount of XG. And that's really, really saying something. Albin in there as well. Obviously, lone players, 2 thighs. Freeze with 21 assists and 17 goals. Mihai Aliku with 15 assists in there too. Limburg was brilliant. The donut was great. Panlet Mate did have a broken leg, so he's had less football this year, unfortunately. Solis has been solid. It's just been a really strong year for us. Manea has really started to look really good. I've been really impressed with his development over the course of this year, and he's turned into a real bright spot. 21 caps and 9 goals for Romania at the age of only 20 years old. They're playing him as a striker, obviously, and we're playing him as a Trek, but it's perfect because he's just a fantastic player, and I don't think it'll be long before he starts to overtake Mihai Aliku. Honestly, he's that good. So those are guys that have kind of really forced their way into the scene this year. Jovetic just played a fair amount as well, actually. When you look at like terms of appearances, obviously Mihov's played 50 games. We've got to ignore the guys that aren't here on loan, actually. Let's get rid of those guys. Spax played loads. Stojanovic has still played a decent amount as well, and he actually's had a lot of football this year too. Karp still gets a decent amount in there. Falconos has played a little bit less, honestly. He's been kept out the side a little bit, but still has 13 assists to his name this year. Danko's getting more game time too. Martins is back, but will now leave to go to Norwich City next season. Mortengamps Pedersen is still doing stuff, but he's still very young. Need to get him a loan spell, really, if at all possible. But there's just so many players that have played time for us in the team this year. Cole Sprouse got into the Northern Ireland squad, didn't actually get a cap, but he got in there. Emmett Doran has kind of been the unsung man. He got 2 goals this season, only played 240 minutes of football. He's 33, nearly 34, but we want to keep Emmett as long as possible because I want to make sure that we try and make him into a coach at this club because he's an absolute legend here, but he just can't quite do it at the very top level anymore. He just doesn't have that cutting edge, sadly, and there's just better players have come along, but he's still an absolute legend, really. So we'll always love Emmett here, no matter what. But yeah, there's so much bright future when you look at some of these guys. This little clump of players right now is the future of this team, and I'm excited to see what they do. And that's just the first team right now. There's guys on loan, all sorts of good stuff to go with it. So that right now is our current task. We'll obviously maybe get the intergaming today. I don't know. We're going to do lots of transfer stuff because this is our situation. Financially, 155 million in the bank. We're very stable because of all the sales we've made. In addition, we have 93 million pounds in transfer budget and 600,000 pounds a week of wage budget available. Can pretty much buy whoever we want, provided they'll talk to us. And unfortunately, that is always the problem. Players are still not talking to us. You'll now understand why I found it so weird that Choi Tae-hoon said he was unsettled and wanted to go to Lille, the team that we'd finished above in our group in the Champions League, whose rep we have a higher rep than, and all that stuff. And yet he was unsettled and wanted to go to Lille. Mental. Don't know when that's ever going to end, honestly, but for the moment, it still persists. So, if you have enjoyed this, drop a like. That'll be lovely. If you're new to the channel, subscribe, stream on Twitch. I'm doing it right now. Come on over, say hello, enjoy a probably quite hot Saturday. It's really, really hot in here right now. And yeah, I will see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for watching. Hold your gun. Capybara. Bye-bye.